What's good, y'all? Today we about to be talking about entry-level jobs and the problems going on with them. If you're like me, then you know that the job market is trash right now and it's hard to get a job. The last job that I had, it took me like 2 years to even get it. Y'all know how hard it is out here, but we finna check out what's going on. Title is WTF is Happening to Entry-Level Jobs by Damon Cassett.
According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Gen Z is facing the worst entry-level job market in nearly 40 years, with 2/3 of all entry-level roles filled by those with over 7 years of work experience. And with most employers not even considering hiring recent grads, AI is projected to eliminate 50% of all entry-level roles just within the next 4 years, raising the question, will Gen Z's career be nothing more than dead-end jobs? While you'd think that with every generation having been sold on the importance of a college education, only to then graduate into a job market actively gutting entry-level jobs, that as Gen Z faces the worst layoff since 2009, the second straight year of historic job revisions, stagnant wages, and mass outsourcing, all alongside rapid technological expansion, it would finally be enough to prove the system is failing the nation's workforce.
That's how I lost my last job. I got replaced by AI, bro. Straight up outsourcing. And you want to know what's funny? These fools, literally a couple weeks after they let me go, they realized that was a bad decision because they didn't have the sophisticated enough AI to take these jobs. They put my job right back on the applications list, bro. Couple weeks after that.
But instead, society continues to lack any forward thinking.
When they talk about the recent grads having a hard time finding work, poor you, suck it up, Buttercup. I came out and started working after the dot-com collapse in 2000. Like, it's supposed to be difficult.
Leaving Gen Z to pay the cost of decades of economic mismanagement as the nation prioritized a pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality over actually addressing the systemic issues. As relentless push for a college education, deindustrialization, and the endless pursuit of shareholder profits all took hold throughout the 1980s, corporate hiring practices fundamentally abandoned the firm handshake mentality, prioritizing the bottom line over long-term workforce stability, particularly when it came to entry-level roles. A Time magazine piece titled "The Blue-Collar Workers' Low-Down Blues" captured the growing despair among America's working class through workers like William West, a crane operator in a coil plant in Braddock, Pennsylvania, who saw no way to finance a college education for his 8-year-old son, asking, "What kind of future does my kid have when you can't even get a job with a high school education?" Throughout the 1980s, only 28% of all jobs created were in high-level occupations, leaving high school graduates to fill the growing opportunities concentrated in low-wage service work such as waitstaff and janitorial roles, with wages for young men falling from $12.19 in 1979 to $8.72 in 1995, while wages for young women declined from $9.01 to $7.43, setting the foundation for an entry-level job market where a college degree became the true barrier to entry. Alongside a high school education becoming worthless in the eyes of employers, and fathers having to apologize to their sons for the
Women should get paid just as much as men. Just throwing that out there.
Embarrassment of their blue-collar occupations, the collective pursuit of a college education simply turned a degree into just another baseline in hiring, shifting entry-level roles to begin demanding years of work experience. Don Franklin, director of executive recruitment for Gimbel's Midwest, told the New York Times in 1983, "A few years ago, we were happy to find students who had done well academically and were enthusiastic about our company. Now, in addition to good grades, most of my colleagues in retailing are hiring graduates who have had work experience, preferably in this field, and who played a leadership role in extracurricular activities. At the same time, the oversupply of graduates began forcing many into positions far below their qualifications." Bob Junius, manager of college relations for Continental Bank, noted that more and more graduates, specifically those in liberal arts, tell our recruiters that they are willing to be tellers or secretaries if they cannot get into one of our management training programs. But we ultimately choose not to hire them as we suspect that they would become frustrated and as a result less productive if we couldn't move them into a better job relatively quickly. And we just can't guarantee that.
I think that's pretty much, if I heard that correctly, that's pretty much the definition of overqualified, which is so dumb to me. Overqualified. Basically, they're saying, okay, we got this job offer for you. Then you come in with all these skills, all this experience, and then they be like, dang, he's too good at this. He's going to want us to give him some extra money if we let him get this job. And we're not willing to pay for a person that is disqualified for our job. Like, that's so bogus and backwards, bro.
Resulting in tens of thousands of young individuals being pushed into dead-end roles that limited long-term career mobility, setting the foundation for the nation's workforce to be forced to work more hours than nearly any other developed country just to barely scrape by. And rather than taking the steps needed to ensure that the next generation entered a fundamentally different system, Gen X was met with the same response. Suck it up, Buttercup. Gen X, adhering to the same societal promise their parents had received, entered adulthood during the highly competitive dot-com boom and bust, where a growing surplus of college graduates, combined with prior work experience already becoming the baseline in hiring, allowed companies to offer far lower wages to the first generation carrying substantial student loan debt, effectively turning entry-level jobs into roles requiring expert-level ability for entry-level pay. John Conway, an intellectual property lawyer, reflected in 2001, "We were stuck in entry-level jobs, and the income didn't increase with the cost of living. Everything is delayed, from home buying to child rearing. In the middle of the game, the rules changed, and the bar for success was raised beyond our means once again." And rather than redefine how the nation's future could combat these rising costs and stagnant wages, did millennials receive the wisdom needed to course correct and avoid repeating history? By 2008, millennials had become the most educated generation in history, with 70% pursuing higher education by the age of 25. Yet within a year, unemployment for young adults surged to 19.2%, double the national average. And despite the entry-level job market already demanding a college degree and work experience, all for embarrassingly low pay, companies increasingly turned to internships as a direct replacement for traditional entry-level roles. In 1992,
I was about to say I never did an internship, but I actually did. I interned at a studio in college. But I mean, that's a little different than like interning at a corporate office. I wasn't like a runner to go get coffee or whatever. I was actually doing a lot of work in there. Like, I was really involved in the studio sessions and stuff like that. But any of y'all ever do internships? I've never been a fan of them. I only did it for college credits. But I've never been a fan of internships because basically it's a company's way of getting a free worker at the end of the day. I just felt like I was being used if I would be doing that. But I mean, I know it's worked out for plenty of people, so I'm just curious. Put in the comments if you ever did an internship.
only 17% of college students had participated in an internship, but by 2008, the number had increased to 83%, with a 2010 NBC report revealing that employers posted 3 times more unpaid internships than just 2 years prior. And by 2016, the global financial crisis resulted in millennial families to be 34% below wealth expectations. But instead of confronting how the system had failed, older generations dismiss the outcome as nothing more than laziness and entitlement, with not a single thing having been done to prevent it from happening again. While the United States has lost 43% of mid-wage occupations since the global financial crisis and gained 58% more low-wage jobs, Gen Z is now aggressively competing for lower quality roles, straddled with immense levels of debt, in a market where over 70% of entry-level jobs require a college degree and nearly 40% demand 3 to 5 years of experience, all while median entry-level wages sit just slightly above what.
That's the part that pisses me off about some of these job applications. You could apply for a basic entry level, anybody can do a job, and they want 3 to 5 years of experience with that. Like, bro, how is anybody fresh into the job market supposed to get a job if that's what you need, if that's what you're requiring for it? And I mean, I've worked in corporate. From what I've seen within that environment, you don't need that much experience, bro. To be able to just, all you need to do is know how to get trained. That's it. Can you absorb training? Then you're good to go. Who cares about how much experience you've had? Sure, experience is good. And I can definitely say it can be recommended just to get a good employee that knows what they're doing. But bro, just why do you hire trainers? What are the trainers for? You need them to come in already knowing the job? No. And even if they come in already having skills, they're going to have to be trained with the specific job most of the time anyway. So just train them and be a good employer and train your employees and hire them. I'm not about to put 7 years into work at an entry level, low wage job. Why would I do that? I'm going to go somewhere else. They're kind of screwing themselves and screwing us at the end of the day.
A Ford factory worker earned in 1914, in a system where even internships no longer function as an entry point into the workforce. Despite 75% of employers claiming they are struggling to fill job vacancies, the second highest rate in 2 decades, a 2022 study of 300 job applications submitted by Business.com's departing interns found that only 12% received any response, just 5% expressed interest, and not a single application resulted in a hire, with candidates actually more likely to be ghosted when they met over 90% of the listed requirements. And when this is compared to unemployment data, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York found that among college graduates aged 22 to 27, computer science and computer engineering majors now face some of the highest unemployment rates in the country, more than double those of biology and even art history graduates. At the same time, nearly 60% of entry-level roles within the IT industry now require 3 to 5 years of experience, all while the share of IT workers within the H-1B program has surged to over 65% over the last 5 years. Now, I've discussed in great detail on the channel how the majority of AI layoffs are just H-1B replacement, even getting Dr. Ron Hira, the leading expert in American outsourcing, to discuss the systemic abuse that H-1B exploitation has caused on the American workforce, and how the $100,000 fee is nothing more than a complete facade. However, every discussion I've had has framed the crisis as the outsourcing of mid-grade tech roles for cheaper wages, since by definition, the whole point of the H-1B program is to allow employers to hire skilled foreign workers in specialty occupations that the United States does not have enough of. But it was recently brought to my attention by a friend who just entered an IT role at a sales company that every entry-level role in his department is filled by H-1B workers. In fact, it appears that the majority of H-1B approvals are now specifically for entry-level positions. And you can even go on Indeed or ZipRecruiter and find run-of-the-mill entry-level jobs explicitly offering H-1B sponsorship, meaning that the growing demand for experience within the entry-level market may not actually be about experience at all, but is instead structured in a way that legally justifies hiring cheaper foreign labor, highlighting just how far both companies and our government are willing to go to enrich the pockets of shareholders at the cost of developing the skill sets needed for the future of the American workforce. And even for the small percentage of Gen Z that actually manages to break through and land one of these so-called entry-level roles, what they're met with is not an opportunity for a career, but a job that pays less, offers no real benefits, provides little to no pathway for advancement, and ultimately does nothing to address the issues actually plaguing society. Which is why I'm grateful to be partnered with 80,000 Hours. 80,000 Hours is a nonprofit that aims to help people find careers that contribute to solving the world's most pressing problems.
Jump ahead,
Thank you, 80,000
baby.
Hours, for partnering with the channel. Alongside Gen Z facing the compounded effect of what each generation previously had to endure, they're also running into what will inevitably be the largest disruptor in the history of the human workforce: LinkedIn. I'm just kidding, it's AI. Now, a large inspiration behind this video was a recent post by Josh Bersin, often cited as a leading HR and workplace analyst, explaining why AI will not be replacing entry-level jobs because they're just so important. His argument is predominantly centered on the fact that most companies view entry-level jobs as the way to build teams that can develop into senior roles that will eventually lead the organization, as they serve so many other purposes besides just getting work done. And in many ways, I actually think that he made some pretty good points. However, I unfortunately think that his career ladder framework is just not an accurate representation of the modern job market. As with everything we've discussed, it's that, one, entry-level jobs by definition just do not exist anymore. And two, this decay has been happening for over 40 years. That's 4 decades of a lack of investment. If it mattered as much as Bersin and other economists say, we would have been taking care of entry-level jobs. We wouldn't be having this conversation altogether. According to resume.org, by the end of 2026, 36% of companies say they will have frozen entry-level hiring, and by 2027, 47% expect to eliminate it entirely. Even Anthropic's CEO, who has famously predicted that 50% of entry-level jobs will be gone by 2030, regardless of his true intentions, never actually frames the shift around creating new entry-level opportunities or alternative ways to developing young workers. Instead, he frames it around the fact that AI can work 8-hour shifts without breaks or burnout, which to me perfectly shows the true intention behind this push for AI. Now, despite there being some unbelievably strong cases for why AI is not even remotely close to fully automating entry-level jobs, with MIT finding that 95% of generative AI pilots at companies are failing, a separate MIT study using a simulation tool called the Iceberg Index found that AI can already technically replace 11.7% of the US labor market, representing roughly $1.2 trillion in wages across finance, healthcare, and professional services, while current so-called AI layoffs account for just 2.2% of that exposure. So whether AI actually works and unemployment skyrockets in a system that has no real plan for how this technology serves the workforce, or
That's exactly what I was talking about earlier. That's exactly what happened to me. When I had my corporate job, that's exactly what happened to me. They just looked at the money, looked at the numbers and said, oh, well, AI can work more than a human being. But then their AI was so trash. It was so garbage. It never worked. I'm not going to put the company on blast or anything. I don't want no beef. But that's exactly what happened. And they got a system that just did not work out for them. And that, I don't know what they're doing now. I have no idea, but they're probably panicking. But that's what these companies are doing. Once you just consider a person just a number and not a real person, and then once the only thing you're thinking about is how much money can this company make, which that to an extent that is all a company is supposed to be in this society at least. But the real companies that really do good, or at least it was before, I don't know how it is now, but it might be different. But the real companies, they help out their employees. They actually care about their employees. And if you do that, then your employees are pouring positivity into your company as you pour positivity into them. And then you actually build a real working structure that actually succeeds. But if you just get crazy only about the money and how can we replace having to pay people and blah, 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 you start ending up screwing yourself. And I've seen that left and right. And we're at an all-time high with that right now. This generation, Gen Z, feels so bad for them, man.
completely backfires, and the hundreds of billions of dollars being poured into data centers through private credit and circular financing destabilizes the economy and leads to yet another bailout, combined with the severe economic consequences of a collapsing talent pipeline. The outcome is all the same. The burden falls on the generation entering the workforce. Because after everything we've discussed, we've spent decades trying to build a future that we think that we want. But by ignoring the cost of today, we're far more likely to end up with a future we wish we never had. And so what I hope that we're beginning to recognize is that what's happening within the entry-level job market, just like many other aspects of decay within the economy, is that it could have been prevented. None of this had to happen. The fact that there's individuals that entered adulthood in the 1980s and they experienced very similar difficulties within the entry-level job market and the cost of living and wage stagnation and all these different aspects. And you fast forward 40 years and we're experiencing the exact same things, but worse, is a failure not only on our corrupt government and our greedy corporations, but us, our grandparents and our parents, and all the individuals that said, you know what, I'm going to get mine, screw the future.
That's deep.
The reason that's happening is because we have turned the United States into a society of individuals and not a community. It is so much easier to see somebody that's struggling, that's fallen on hard times, ran on some bad luck or, some sort of difficulty in their life and say, you're lazy, you're entitled, you don't even know how hard I had it. It's so much easier for you these days. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Suck it up, buttercup, right? It's so much easier to do that than it is to show just an ounce of effort or care into actually addressing the issues within the system.
My boy's spitting.
I think the unfortunate reality is that not only is Gen Z facing these issues right now, and that on our horizon, I can't see how things get any better. But it's also our responsibility because clearly nobody else is going to do it. That Gen Alpha will soon be entering adulthood. And by soon, I mean, within a couple decades. They will be entering adulthood. And what is the future like for them? Absolutely, there are still opportunities to be able to make a career today. You can enter the trades. It's what everybody's going to tell you in the comment section. It's time to get your hands dirty and actually work. You can enter the trades. You can still do it the traditional route. There are still opportunities for that. And networking and communication and social media and entrepreneurship. all of that is still absolutely valid. I'm not saying that, the world is ending. I'm saying that things are getting worse. So 5 years from now, can we say if entry-level jobs or the job market is even going to look similar to what we have now? I don't think that we can. How about a decade from now? 2 decades from now? 50 years from now? It's almost because things are so difficult. The cost of living is so bad, and wage stagnation is so bad, and we're working so much, and all these aspects. It's given us the excuse to feel like we are not responsible for what happens 50 years from now. And so when we lack responsibility and any form of accountability, well, it gives the corrupt government and the greedy corporations free rein to do whatever it is that they want. And who has to pay the prices for this? It's going to be Gen Alpha. It's going to be Gen Z. Just like it was the baby boomers, and just like it was Gen X, and just like it was millennials, but nothing was done to stop it from happening. And so it is our responsibility to ensure that somebody is looking after the next generation. I recently just finished a heavier video, and I was kind of frustrated about the topic and things of that nature. So I went to the gym, worked out, and I was sitting in the sauna. I was so exhausted, just mentally fried. There was an older gentleman sitting next to me on my right, and there was 2 people kind of my age. I'm 26. They were probably like 28, 29. And they were talking about what the older guy did for work. So he had some sort of company. And he was talking about how he outsources his IT-related roles at his company to Uganda. And he was talking about how fantastic it is that they will work for $5 a day. They'll work 24 hours. And if they get tired, they just sleep under their desk. And he was so enthusiastic about it. Now, that alone, I think, is horrible. What was worse was the people around my age. They were frothing at the mouth as if like Anne Hathaway just asked them on a date. I was stunned. And I'm really frustrated at myself that I didn't say anything. I was so exhausted, so in disbelief, and so at like a loss of hope seeing that. I just didn't know what to do. But again, those are people that are the future. That wasn't private equity. That wasn't Jeff Bezos saying that. That wasn't, Microsoft and LinkedIn and all of the things that we want to blame. That was 2 people my age in Austin, Texas, that were saying, heck yes, I can't wait to outsource American jobs to somebody that's going to have to sleep under their desk for $5 a day. And yeah, the $5 a day probably does help their family. But again, do we really want to be championing having somebody have to work 24 hours sleeping under their desk for an IT-related role? I don't think that's a nation that we want to be. And the unfortunate reality is, why isn't anybody else saying this? Now, I understand that in our niche of YouTube, people are saying this, and I think that most Americans feel this. Why hasn't more been done? I don't understand why there isn't more leadership. I don't understand why previous generations are continuing to do nothing to help. It doesn't make sense to me. And again, if you want to blame the lazy Gen Z or whatever, what about the kids right now? What about the children? We're responsible for their future.
Hooked.
And we are wasting it. We're saying, here's an iPad. Screw you. That's the unfortunate reality.
Oh, this brings up another topic. I was just chopping it up with my mom and talking about how it's so bad nowadays that like I see so many kids, they get their first iPad at like 6 years old or something. And my mom brought up this analogy talking about when you're in the grocery store and you see a little kid sitting in the cart because they're small enough to sit in the cart while their parent is grocery shopping. You'll see them sitting there on their little iPad and stuff. And the parent will be like, yeah, when I take away their iPad, they just start screaming. They won't stop screaming until I give it back to them. Gee, that's literally an addiction, bro. Already at 6 years old is not good. When I have children, I don't want to give them anything like that until at least like 16. And even then nowadays, it's still dangerous. But then there comes the problem with all their little friends at school. They gonna have iPads, and they might make fun of the kid because they don't have one or something like that. So, and like, I don't want my kid to be like isolated or bullied at school either. But to have to get them an iPad so they can fit in, so they can watch all this brain rot that everybody's being just delivered on a fancy platter, it's terrible. It's a double-edged sword. So that's like hard decisions that, you know, people are going to have to make nowadays. People are making nowadays. And from what I see, majority of people, they just fold. It's just like, just give them the iPad. Just give them the iPad. They're freaking out. And it's not cool. It's not cool. That's ridiculous. And it is setting up people for failure. It's setting up our youth for failure. Because there's certain skills. Like, I grew up in a time where, you know, we actually went outside and played. We rode our bikes. When it was wintertime, we go outside and have snowball fights and stuff like that. We'll just run around the block or whatever, play basketball or something. We go outside. And nowadays, you don't see that anywhere. You don't see no kids going outside. The most they was doing was playing Pokemon Go when they go outside. And there was people getting hit by cars because they was looking at their phone trying to catch Pokemon. So it's like, bro, it's really hard. And like, I'm right here with this guy. Like, I just had to let him spit for a minute because he was going at it. But I don't know what the solution would even be for this at this point. I really don't. I don't have all the answers, but at least I'm trying to take step one and identify the problem, because this is a real problem. And like, it totally ties into the entry-level job market. Totally ties into it, because those that even have the skills to do these jobs, now they're getting replaced by robots. Like, honestly, if they keep it up like this, we're going to end up being a society that's doing what China's doing. Everybody just says, you know what, screw it. I ain't finna work. I'm just finna sit here. It's not even worth it. They're just going to be sitting around and literally just lay in their bed all day playing their Nintendo Switch. If they keep this up, that's probably what society is going to end up doing. And to touch on what I think is going to happen in like the next 50 years or so, I think it's going to be a completely social media driven society. Like that movie, I can't remember what the name was, but when they had their like lifespan in their arm and that was their currency and you had to basically pay with your lifespan, I could totally see it being on some sort of level like that, just with your cloud. Or no, even better. There was I think it was an episode of Black Mirror where their clout was their life source and their currency. And if you like got too many down likes on the social media thing, whatever it was at the time, you would actually perish. Like, I don't see that as far-fetched as I once did for the future. And it could be in short 50 years. Like, I'll still be alive during this time period to see all this. I'll be a little long in the teeth, but I would be witnessing that too. See multiple generations go through this, and it's not cool. It's not safe. This is what too much capitalism will do to you. Like, I don't think capitalism by default is terrible or anything like that. But when you get fully capitalistic minded and you stop seeing the value in just people and society and how society has to be a community and not just everybody constantly competing with each other and throwing everybody down, everybody being selfish, not worrying about anybody else. This is what we get to. My bad. I'm sick right now, but this is what we get to. And it's just not cool, man. But let me let them get the rest.
You know,
of this off.
I've worked many jobs. My first job was working at a garbage company. I then worked at my friend's Chinese restaurant. And then my first real job was working at Torchy's Tacos. I was the first employee hired there. I learned so much at that job, and leadership skills, time management, so many different aspects. It's a lot, you know, there's compounding effects of me being able to do this today. I now go to the same Torchy's location that I was hired at. There's no cashiers. It's tablets.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to those? The opportunities for young people to be able to develop those skill sets is gone. Now, most people will say, oh, well, you know, you need to go get a real job and, you know, all these other things. But I look at it in the big picture and I say, I don't think it's great that when I go into most of these restaurants, the server is an older individual. I don't think it's great that people are having to be forced out of retirement and taking the entry-level positions that would be a teenager's job. It's creating a massive collapse of the talent pipeline. And again, are you seeing anything being done to solve this? No. There's no incentive to. We have to provide the incentive. We have to demand the change. And we do that by leading within our own lives. So if you are going to start a company, ensure that you're doing it for the betterment of the community. You're doing it to hire local Americans. You're doing it to create lasting change. And if you're going to support them, ensure that you do your best. In whatever avenue it is that you do within your life, do the best that it is that you can. And that isn't just, I'm going to kind of half-ass it and pretend it's my best. Do your best. And do it for the person right next to you. Do it for the little kids. Somebody has to be looking out for them. Our country clearly isn't doing that, if you know what I'm talking about. So it's up to us to be able to protect them. And I'm going to do the best that I can. And it's starting to feel much more difficult. I'm feeling like I don't know how to do it, but I'm feeling like I'm trying to throw as many things out there as I can to try to get some engagement, get some interaction, figure out what leadership looks like for me, and try to get us moving in a forward direction, because I think everything else is trying to pull us the opposite direction. And I'm saying we have to keep our eye on the ball. And even though things are difficult for us, it's up to us to stop kicking the can down the road. And I'm going to do the best that I can in doing that. So I hope this was able to provide some value to you. If it did, I would really appreciate if you liked the video, subscribe if.
Wow. Yeah, man. Like, there was minimal yapping by me in this video, because, I mean, I was letting mans get it off right there. But yeah, this is a real big problem, man. This is a real big problem. He made so many valid points in there, and I know I just expanded on a lot of them before, but this is a serious problem with how we're doing today, and like basically removing a lot of entry-level jobs like cashiers and stuff like that. My first job was as a cashier at Best Buy, and then I moved to the Geek Squad. I could totally see cashiers at Best Buy just not being there. It's just a tablet. I've been to plenty of fast food restaurants, no cashier whatsoever. It's literally just a booth with tablets, and there's like two little half-sitting, half-standing booths. You can't even really sit in there and stuff like that. And it's bad because these young folk, they need, well, a lot of them, they need to get that entry-level job to get that experience to even move up. But if you combine taking away a lot of entry-level jobs along with other jobs that are still kind of basically entry-level but a little higher, and then you demand like 3 to 7 years of experience to get that, it's like, well, there was no job I could even have gotten. This is the first thing I could even do. So it's just screwing everybody over. It's gonna screw over the companies, and then it's gonna screw over the people, and at the end of the day, without the people, the companies would be nothing. I'm hoping that nowadays people can get a little more caught up to what's going on, so then, you know, people can hopefully come together and do something about it, because change does need to happen. And I know a lot of us, we don't have the resources to really go out and just like take down a whole company or whatever, but we do have the resource of being able to talk about it, spread awareness about it, and come together. And maybe there will have to be some sort of protest-like movement that goes on or something. And like, I hope it doesn't come to it, but maybe American society is gonna have to do what China's doing and just lay down, and just nobody, like, if nobody's working and nobody's putting into society, then the company's gonna have to do something. But even that is an extremely scary process, and I'm not advocating for that at all. I'm not advocating for everybody to just not work. Like, I think we all should be putting in work, but at this point, it's hard for us to even be in a position to do that and get, you know, some sort of profit off of that. It's just dark days right now, man. It's dark days. Yeah, I think in the future, everybody's gonna, like, probably a large percent of the population is gonna be like a streamer or a YouTuber. I can't even lie. And I'm over here YouTubing right now. I think a large population is going to be there. Everybody's going to have to be an influencer, and the less of a successful influencer you are, simply the lower your quality of life. The less money you have, the less you're able to have any sort of financial freedom at all, because it's moving to that. Like, everything is based on clout. Everything is based on your following. Everything is based on that. Like, even our current president, he's basically an influencer, and that's what it is. And we see the decisions he's doing. Like, he's making wild decisions. We'll put it that way. But he's basically just an influencer. He was real popular. He was on a freaking TV show where we fired people, and we decided to vote him as president. So what's even next? What's even next? Unless he succeeds with his plan on staying in office for forever. And bruh, this is making me upset. I don't know. We just need to spread awareness about this. Just talk about it with people. Talk about it with people, and just do your best. Like bro said here on the video, just do your best to contribute the way you can. And it's gonna suck and it's gonna be hard, because as you're contributing, or at least trying your best to contribute, you are gonna see a lot of people not caring and just wanting for their own. But at the end of the day, if you want to work for the greater good, you got to contribute the best you can as well. Help out the next man, even if he sucks. Even if he sucks. Now, if they screw you over, all right, let me move on to the other next man. Try to help him out or something, in the best of my abilities. But yeah, if we don't do something about this, it's gonna be basically Elysium. If you've seen the movie, that's where there's a whole planet named Elysium, and there is no middle class. It's just rich people on Elysium, low classes on Earth, and straight poverty, just death and destruction. And they're really aiming for that. It's clear as day they're trying to make that so. They've been trying to weed out the middle class for forever. And if they do that, it's going to end up in a lot of terrible stuff. And they might even, who knows, they might even bring back the law to say if you don't have a job, then that's going to be illegal. They did that. I think it was specifically for black people when they first did that, but they don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever. They don't care. At this point, it's like basically, I mean, there's still a lot of racism out there. Do not get me wrong, but it's like classism, financialism, whatever. I don't think that's a word, but it's basically that. And they trying to really do that before our eyes. So if we don't step up and do something about it, it's gonna happen, and we're gonna be screwed, and the world might blow up. We're probably just gonna blow up. But yeah, I ain't gonna rant on this topic anymore. I really want to hear y'all thoughts, and I can rant with y'all in the comments. So throw your thoughts down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. Do you have any potential solutions to this? What do you think would work? How do you feel about this? Is it affecting you? Is it affecting someone close to you that you know? Like, I want to hear your thoughts on this one, because this is a really important topic that really does have to get out there. So with that being said, thank you for tuning in. Hit me with a like, comment, subscribe. It really helps me be able to get this content out for you. And yeah, let's chop it up, man. But until next time, stay blessed, pray for our people, help out the next man.